Hello everyone, welcome back. Tonight we're going back to the Material Design and XAML project. We started on the 5.0 pull request, which was massive a couple weeks ago. Thank you to the people who have been reviewing it. I realized it was big is probably an understatement. Massive, huge, and there has been a lot of great review comments, so I kind of want to work on getting it done. I'm thinking the 4.10 release isn't going to happen and everything's just 5.0. I think that may be where we're going. There's some stuff in the 4.10 bit that is a little, maybe I should just release it really quick, but I'm like, I don't know. So if anyone has strong preferences, okay. So what the heck am I talking about? This pull request right here, the one that is very aptly named 5.0 bang 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 bang. Yeah. So lots of good review comments. I won't spoil it. So what is actually going on here is a major revamp of how we do theming and brushes in the library. This has been one of the areas that I think in the 3.5 release or 3.6 release, somewhere in that frame, I did somewhat of a refactor of the theming code and broke it apart, got it into a nice workable state. But the problem still remained that it was a major pain in the butt every time we wanted to go and add new brushes to a theme. And there was also all of these issues where one brush would be reused in multiple places, and it was difficult for people who wanted to tweak just one individual thing. And there's constantly requests coming in for people saying, hey, how do I change insert brush here? Right? I want to change the color of just this one thing. I don't want to change it for the whole app. It's like, well, that gets a little more complicated. So the idea being that what we're doing is creating one, most of the brushes are being renamed. So you can see a massive rename happening here. I've tried to document them here. We're going to cover out more of them. And there is going to be a shim package in. So if you are currently using for people who aren't like using these brushes too heavily in your app, it should be a simple find and replace. That's the goal. If that is a major lift for you, there's going to be a shim resource dictionary you can slap in, and it should take care of doing all of the forwarding for you so that you don't have to address it. You should start migrating at some point because that shim library isn't going to stick around forever. As the other brushes start to mutate and evolve, there's going to be things that you just start missing out on and are going to be forced to update at some point anyway. So just be aware, this shim library is a point in time shim. It's not expected to be full backwards compatibility for all time going forward. So for what it's worth. So this is just to make it easier for people to adopt 5.0 and then start migrating at a reasonable cadence. Don't worry, I'm not going to like delete it in the 5.1 release or anything crazy. But what we have done is now built out a massive number of new theme brushes, and more importantly, they're generated. So when we want to change one, it's easy. So let's take a look at that. So real quick, just to be clear, here is a set of commits that have been done that are all just items off of the breaking changes list. So there's a 5.0 breaking changes issue on the repo. This is just knocking out a bunch of them. This isn't necessarily all the 5.0 breaking changes, but it's a lot of the easy ones. This is how many I've put in on this theming stuff. This is also after I've squashed a sizable number of them as well. So this theming stuff is a massive, massive chunk of the 5.0 bits. Sorry. New Mountain Dew. The one of the summer flavors is a thrashed apple. For those people who have it in your area, if you like the artificial apple flavor of like a Jolly Ranchers candy, it's very heavy in the artificial apple flavoring. So if you don't like artificial apple flavoring, stay far away. If you like it, you'll probably love it. Okay, so let's go through this little, and then we've got a couple of these. I think a lot of these ones die with this PR as well, because I think I've updated a bunch of these. Trying to remember, this one shows a pass, but is this still waiting on something? Yeah. There's a handful of things in here, and I don't think Yeah, I don't think there's been feedback that's done on this since. But we may circle back to this. We may circle back to this one because that would be a good one to get in as well. Okay, and there's probably going to be a little bit of time where I let this thing bake. Like 5.0, I'm not rushing to do. So here's my personal favorite. This file's changed, right? This says 260. This shows 249. And you'll note it shows that we've viewed 247 out of 249, right? I only have a math minor, which clearly means I can only do math on, one hand. I'm pretty sure that's what a math minor means, which means I should only see 2 boxes unchecked. Now, I don't doubt this is JavaScript related. So 1, great. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Short version, GitHub can't count. I don't doubt this is related to the sheer size of the PR and whatever lazy loading of this files thing is going on. I'm sure it's something like that. But yeah, so there's a bunch. And I've been slowly trying to use these to check off as I've addressed comments. So let's look at the palette helper one. Why is this one not closed out yet? Right, I was leaving this one because Nikolai's comment about documenting in one of the README files. I agree that needs to be done. I'm saving that. We'll circle back to it because that is a feature that is not well done yet. Okay, so here we got this. So one, Michael's been awesome about looking at this because when I did the rename a couple weeks ago, I wrote a PowerShell script that just blind find and replaced, which was great. It blind find and replaced everything, but it meant that it now exposed a lot of these cases where things were not always the clearest. So let's go and check this out. 282 on the combo box style. So that's not the right one. Yeah. Hold that thought. We got to actually open the right solution. That one. Ignore my failed unit test. I was playing with some code earlier and I just wanted to see how it worked. Okay, why is my test explorer scrunched up and on a different monitor? That seems wrong. Okay. Okay, here we go. Ooh. I will save this for later. I love new updates. Let's see. This is chip. This isn't combo box. Let's try again. Combo box. There we go. And we were on G282. Okay, so this is specifically around here. So this is changing. So if is enabled false, using the checkbox disabled style. So what's the feedback here? Maybe I'm missing something. Why is this not the right? Because is enabled is false. Style name mismatch. Maybe create a general disabled style. Let's see. I'm a little confused here. Let's see. Combo box toggle button. This one I'm not sure makes sense. Let's see. This is expected, or I should say, this is changing the color of the drop down arrow to the disabled gray color when the button is disabled. So let's slap that in. I have been doing the add single comments because there's just so much in here. Let's see. Style name mismatch. Target is border. I agree that the target is the border, but this is a control template style. What is the condition here? Agreed. But this is changing the color of internal template member to be use the disabled brush when the control is disabled. Okay, so I think both of these, I'll let Michael reply back, but I suspect we may just disregard those ones. Are there any more in this file? Style naming mismatch. Let's see here. Because Michael has caught a lot of styling issues, specifically around things like the separator style, not because previously the material design separator brush was used in like, I don't know, 80 places. And that was one of the problematic ones because it meant that if you wanted to override the color, it would affect a whole bunch of disparate things. So this was text area border. So what are we in? We are in an outline combo box. Yeah. Brush, header, foreground. Style naming mismatch. Yeah, so let's look. This guy here is setting the... Why do we have a header foreground? I'm curious. Why did I do that? Let me rephrase. I'm sure I know why I did it. I probably wasn't thinking clearly. So this seems like it's recreating the same problem. In that it is duplicating forward a bunch of resources that we don't want. So text area and column header were both forwarded to that one. So this obsolete brushes is also serving as a nice reference point for what things were renamed to other things, which is convenient. I think in this case, I might want to keep it. Because we could create a separate one, but I don't know if that makes sense. Outline combo box. This is just setting the border on the outline combo box to use the header foreground. Header foreground. Does that make sense? Because we could always do a specific combo box brush. What's the line number on this guy? Outline combo box. The thing is this is one of those areas where this isn't a big issue because it's on a top level style. So it's very easily overridden. The more problematic ones are things like this one here, which is inside of the like style triggers. Correct brush is matches the order the text box, and since a is just a wrapper on that, and this is easily overridable. I think it is fine. Okay, so we'll do that. That makes sense. And then we're going to resolve that one. And then we deleted a bunch of obsolete stuff. Okay, so we're going to collapse this one. Wasn't combo box what we were just looking at? Oh, this is data grid combo box. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so this is going to be another interesting one. These ones probably need to be... Yeah, these ones probably need to be added. Yeah, okay, so let's go and look at these ones. So, text box, hover, background. Because again, this is one of those cases where divider was used, and divider is like not nearly specific enough. Okay, so data grid combo box 84. There we go. I'm not an idiot. Okay, data grid combo box 84. Boom. Okay, so what are we actually doing here? So this is the combo box item. So this is an individual item inside of a combo box, inside of an editable data grid cell. Okay, and here we have a couple of these that are the, let's see, selected false, mouse over false, keyboard focus true. So this is keyboard has focus, but the mouse is not over. We then have one other one down here. Wait. These are the same brush. So effectively, the state of mouse over doesn't matter. And we could combine these into a single trigger. Is that what it was like before? That's what it was like before. Okay, so I'm going to propose that we delete is mouse over from these triggers because those don't make a lick of difference. All right? Okay. So, item is selected. I'm going to look at a couple of these other ones here because I'm noticing that there might be some of these other ones that also evaluate the same. So let's see. False, true, false. True, false, true. So we've got 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1. Okay, so all three of those are distinct. True, false, false. So this trigger here and this trigger here are also functionally the same. Just trying to look, because the only thing that's important to note is when triggers are evaluated, they're evaluated in order and last in wins. So even though, so these two triggers here are identical, aside from the is keyboard focused, that's the bool difference between them, but they are both setting the exact same property on the exact same object to the exact same value, which means this and this are functionally the same, which means I should kill the first trigger. Okay. And now I'm noticing this and this are both setting the values. Which, hold on, now that we've done that, I know that these here are both setting the same thing. Of is selected. If is selected is true, whether mouse is over or not, this background property gets set. Which means I can eliminate this and this. And then we can kill off this trigger. Joshua, welcome! Welcome. First time chat. I appreciate it. Brief introduction. Joshua is new at Intelitech with me and has the unfortunate sentencing of being forced to work with me. So be nice to him. He suffers during the day. Doing some WPF work on here. I'll just share. So This project here is a theming library for WPF. It is actually used in the project that you may be landing on, by the way. Not heavily, emphasis on not heavily, but it is used for a handful of things. So we're just cleaning some of this stuff up. It's a blessing to be working with you. Okay, so the other thing now that we've now gotten this multi-trigger down into a single multi-trigger with a single condition, which that sounds a heck of a lot to me like just a regular trigger with property, if I can spell. What were we doing? Is selected and a value of true, and then all of this dies. So for anybody who isn't familiar with this, we just did a very manual version of what people would call K-maps, or I'm gonna butcher this name, Karnoff. I'm not even gonna try. I'm horrible at this. K-map reduction. So for those people who may not be what I will call trained in university and computer science theory, this is one of those things that you learn in like an algorithms class in school. And it has a lot of really cool practical applications, but I've seen a lot of people who are like self-taught programmers who don't know this and just kind of can functionally work through that same logic that we did. All a K-map is a fancy way of doing that. That's it. It's no better than that. Okay, so let's keep going down this, because so is selected true. This is going to handle this one. The other two must be is selected false, which is fine. So here, let's do this. We're going to reorder these just to make my life looking clear, right? Boom. So in the is selected false case, we then have mouse over true, keyboard focus true. So is mouse over true, this is mouse over any, but is slightly distinct. Okay. But this is setting the same background property to the same value. So as long as is selected as false, if mouse over is true, it doesn't matter the set of keyboard focus, we're always going to set hover background. Something's off about this. This seems like I broke something. Hang on. This feels a little like Kevin's an idiot. So hang on. I want to diff this real quick. Okay, side by side diff. Yeah. So pro tip for everybody. If you are not, let's go bigger. The buttons in your diff viewer, love them. Learn to use them effectively. They are very worthwhile. So inline, side by side. Every diff viewer worth its salt. Let me rephrase. Any diff viewer that you should be using has these two options, right? This hunk view is kind of, I only see it in some tools. Less important, but everyone has either side by side, split view, or inline. And depending on what you're viewing, one of these may be better than the other. Okay, so I just want to look at these really quick to make sure that we haven't completely shot ourselves in the foot. So is selected true. What we decided is all of the is selected true cases, mouse over false, mouse over true, we're both setting the same background property, so those ended up being combined, right? Selected, selected, selected. So we haven't just worked ourselves out of this case, no. So we've come to the conclusion that is selected true, all of the things go to selected. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So the other thing to remember with triggers is there's always the implicit else case, right? Because a trigger is only if the following things are true, then apply these setters. I just want to make sure I didn't accidentally shoot myself in the foot. You know, the other thing we could do, we could just fire this thing up. Oh, this is the, oopsie, wrong project. So if you start the wrong project, you get the wrong output. So let's try demo app again real quick. Because this is just the background property Yeah, I'm trying to think. Ideally, we should have some UI tests around this to make sure it's working properly. Okay, so where are my drop downs? Those aren't drop downs. Those aren't drop downs. These are drop downs. Yeah, I think it's fine. Because it's mostly going to be handled at the outer layer. I think we're fine. I think we're fine. Okay, perfect. So hold on. I want to look at these because these are both setting the exact same brush. And they are setting it. So is selected as false in both cases. Great. Is mouse over true? It gets applied. This will apply. So this is kind of an or condition then. So this is if mouse over is true or keyboard focus is true, then we set this property. That's effectively what this is doing. We could drop the keyboard focus false here. Yeah, we don't need keyboard focus false because it doesn't matter. And so technically I have changed behavior here. But why I say it doesn't matter is because both of these setters are targeting the same background property with the same on the same border control with the same brush. So effectively, if it's selected, if it's not selected, if the mouse is over it or the keyboard's over it, we set the background. Okay, so now we get back around to this. And the whole point of this was me trying to figure out what the heck we should name this brush, because what do we actually want to type here, right? So it should be data grid, right? And then whatever we call this, because it's set in both focused or mouse over. What is a word that means focused or mouse over? We could have separate brushes mapped to the same value. Data grid, because this is combo box selected. So let's go with combo box hover. Is it bad to do combo box hover in both cases? I don't think so. I don't think that's a bad idea. This is one of those cases where it gets a little awkward because there's not a clear delineate. Like WPF has more UI states than the material design spec defines. So we get to take some liberties. Okay, so we want that brush. We come over here. This is the new way of managing all the theme colors in this library, which has made me very happy. And I've alphabetized it because my OCD insists that I do so. Okay, so we're going to go here. Actually, what was the old brush name? The old brush was text box hover background. Let's just go copy that one. No, don't autocomplete. ST text box hover background. Because I just want to get these. I want to make sure that it's mapping them to their same colors. And we're going to go up here. And we're going to go data grid. Paste it there. And then the name that we wanted was combo box hover. Great. Let's see. Data grid. Combo box hover. I don't want to remap the same obsolete keys here. So we'll just, oh, I guess I should leave the, for whatever reason I left it. I think my code handles missing an empty array as the same case. Either way, we go back to our resource generator. We say generate all the theme brushes. Bippity boppity, booyah. And we're done. And if we go and look, we got a bunch of changes now. Wait, no we don't. Why do we not have changes? Oh, because You must rebuild to get the thing to copy. Forgot about that. That is so annoying. Aren't you set to copy always? Yes. The insistence that it doesn't always copy the outputs is really annoying. So because JSON files aren't deemed part of the compilation, it doesn't copy them always, and it bothers me. There we go. Okay, now we got a bunch of changes. So for example, you'll note the data grid class now has combo box hover generated. All the theme extensions are built. Boom, boom, boom. It generates out the new brush in my dark theme, my light theme, and our combo box is now using the new thing. Perfect. Okay, stage all changes. And we're going to go adding, what's the name of it? I've already forgotten. Brush. Commit and push. And then we'll go back to Michael's comment. Let's see here. Cleaned up and added new brush to handle this. Boom, copy, add. Ugh. Needless to say, GitHub is struggling with this PR. And I can't really blame it. Like, I'm throwing a massive amount of changes at it all at once. But I don't know how to do app-wide theming changes. Okay, so this one down here. This was the same text box border. Oh, we probably should have done this one at the same time. I guess I should have looked at all of them. So 203 and 329 probably need the same brush treatment. Let's see. Oh, it's going to be a different number though. Because we changed. I gotta now look at context. Let's see. This is on the expand that drop down border. Here, this one. Oh, let's do that, and then that'll handle that one. Oh, and the other one is, oops, did I change the wrong thing? Sure as I'm looking at the wrong one. Nope, same control name, different control. 3, 2, oh, thereabouts. There, that guy. Let's see. And we're just gonna pretend like we didn't make a mistake. Amend commit, force push. There were no errors. History has been made right. Perfect. Okay. Let's see. And add single comment. Resolve conversation. Come on. There we go. And come on, GitHub. You can do it. Paste. Add single comment. I really wish there was a add comment and resolve at once. Hint, hint, GitHub. Okay, we're going to do that. And then against my better judgment. No, we're going to... I don't want to hit the refresh button here. It'll take forever for it to go. Okay, so now we're in the data grid. Let's go take a look at this. Data grid text pop-up style. So data grid 133. Okay. So close you. Close you. And I want to come here, 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 here. Data grid 133. I'll let that go for a minute. My poor AC unit is firing off a bunch and annoying me. Okay, so what are we in here? So this is the material design data grid text column pop-up editing style. Okay. I have this bad idea, by the way, and somebody should probably talk me out of it, of fixing the name of all of these style keys so that it looks more like these, with the nice dots in the middle of them. Like, there's something nicer about reading material design dot data grid dot text column editing style, right? Maybe like that. I don't know. They're obviously a breaking change, but the only nice part is styles are a little easier to rename because you can just put in, like, you put in the new style and then you create a, or I should say you rename the style, then you put in a new style with the old style key and just base it on the new one, and then poof, everything forwards and everyone's happy. So there's that. So, but this guy here has the hover one, and this is the text column pop-up. I think we probably just want to go back here because we probably want a brush similar to this, but I don't think I want to share the same brush. I think I want to do a new one. I'm trying to decide what it should be though, because so this should probably be data grid dot. I wonder if like pop-up background makes sense. Maybe we could do data grid dot pop-up dot. I mean, we could do that. Does that make sense? It kind of works. It's not. It's a little awkward. And it's not background, it's border. It would be more like that. I think that works. Yeah. Data grid, pop-up, border. This is the editing style in a pop-up for the thing. Yeah, I think that works. I think that works. Okay, so we want to duplicate exactly what we did, because this one was this was the same one that we replaced here, right? I believe so. Let's see, text box hover background, right? And that's what we're replacing on our working changes, is text box hover background. Text box hover background, yeah, okay. Good. So we can take the same value we just did, just combo box hover. Oh, and combo box hover is out of order. Let's move it up. Alphabetizing makes me happy. And we were going to put this in dot pop-up dot border. I wonder if these should be dot combo box dot hover dot. Huh. I don't know where to break that in data grid. Because should this be pop-up border? That's probably better to be in line with the rest of them. Let's go that route, I think. I'm trying, because each level of these dots, the generator that I'm using will do levels of nesting within our classes to build out an object model for each of these theming brushes. That way, if you don't want to interact with the theming stuff in XAML, you can do it in code and get nice IntelliSense. I just didn't want to have to write all that code. It was going to be annoying to keep all that crap in sync. So I did this instead. Yeah, I think that's better. So we're going to do pop-up, which is going to end up putting me here. Pop-up border. Black and white. right? And we can just go and double check it against our original just to make sure. Text box hover background. So if we go down here, go to text box, hover background, black and white 100. So we're good. We're good there. There. Data grid pop border, right? Okay. Let's check the rest of the code review and see if there's anything else in this guy that we missed. Let's see. Data grid. This should definitely be its own brush. This is 466. Let's see. Yeah, so this should definitely be data grid. If I can spell border. Yeah. Border. So we'll go down it once again and just make sure that I'm grading the right one. I guess it's going to be the same as what we did before. Data grid border is B. BO comes before BU. Border. That goes in there. That goes in there. Perfect. Value seems vague. So selected cell border brush. Yeah, in this case, let's see. So in this case, I think this brush is fine, and easily adjusted if needed. Okay, so I think we're gonna do this one here. We're gonna resolve effectively as a won't fix. So I think that's probably okay. The other ones, though, are certainly issues, and we are going to fix them here. So we come back in here, we go gen me some brushes, we go bippity boppity booyah, and our diff gets huge. My apologies that my big head is in the way. Oh, once again, I didn't do the bloody rebuild. I am so annoyed at this. I almost want to find a cleaner way to do this. Okay. Please gen me some brushes. There we go. You'll note it even generates UI tests for me. Mwah. Must love the UI tests. Possibly somewhat worthless test, given that once I know that my thing is working, but it gives me a lot of confidence that my generation is working end to end. So like this is what I was saying is we added a data grid.border. It gens the data grid class. It adds a border property to it. Comes down here, pop-up border. I do wonder if maybe I should alphabetize these. Because the fact that selected and column header foreground are down here concern me. Why are those out of order? Where are those brushes? Hang on. Column header foreground. Why is that one so far? Like I see selected here. That one just not in the... Oh, this one has alternate keys. Got it. Oh, maybe that's what I should be doing. Well, should I set it up as a separate brush, or should I set it up as an alternate key to the same brush? Boy, I don't know if I like these alternate key things. I think I like the way I have it. I think I like the way I have it. We're going to keep it for now. keep it for now. Keep it for now. Keep it for now. Okay, so adding let's just go back and grab the brush. Data grid. I'm blanking. Which ones are my new ones? Data grid border and data grid pop-up border. Let's see. Edited. Oh, this was meant to go in here. Pop-up border. Did you learn WPF at all of 2E or just randomly teach yourself? Great question. So for those people who are unaware, I previously used to work for a company called Olive Tree Bible Software. They produce a, think of it like a Christian-based Kindle app style thing. There's libraries, books, primarily an e-reader. I got hired on to work on their Windows team when it was first starting out because they were wanting to build they try to target lots of platforms and they were looking to do Windows desktop, and I came in. I did not actually learn WPF there. I arguably got hired because of how well I knew WPF. So when I first started, long time ago, I actually started out at a job where, well, we're gonna back up even further. Whole story of where we go. So when I was going to university, there was a professor who at the time I thought I wanted to be a network engineer doing like sysadmin type work, and he convinced me. He's like, why don't you try this programming thing? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, you should give it a try. I think you might like it. I'm like, fine, whatever. We'll give it a try. So I went and did it, and I took this class, arguably from Santa Claus. The professor who taught it was a much older gentleman. He had a full white beard, large pot belly. He knew he looked like Santa Claus. He played into looking like Santa Claus. At Christmas time, great, the mysterious history of Kevin. Great, Andrew. He played up the role. Like at Christmas time, he came into class full Santa suit on. Like we couldn't quite always get him to go ho 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 for us, but he definitely played it out and looked the part. Joshua, thanks for the follow. So I get into his class, and it wasn't a normal introduction to programming class. This guy was retired, and the school was desperate to get instructors to come back and teach. And so he kind of had carte blanche to do as he felt like, because he's like, what are they going to do? Fire me? I'm trying to retire and be gone, and they keep calling me back. So he got to teach the class as he wanted, which was exactly as he liked it. And it was a VB.NET class. And I usually don't tell people that I know VB because I don't like to admit it. But it was actually my first introduction to coding, and I absolutely loved it. The class was Windows Forms, and you got, like, there was a lot of, like, technology language shaming because right after us, the C class guys came in. They were clearly the elites because they were coding in C and they doing all this low-level stuff. And I remember one time the professor looks over because we had built a little Pong game in a 50-minute class. He's like, you try to do this in C. He's like, we built an entire Pong game in 50 minutes. What have you guys gotten done? And it was, kind of some good-natured ribbing on each other, which was hilarious. But I absolutely loved it. And so when I was getting ready to graduate, I applied for a job at a local company that did chatbots type software. It was basically when the little expert system AI chat with an agent bots on the website were brand new. These were fancy. Not many people had them at the time, and they had come up with a fairly good AI agent. They had a couple of researchers that were amazing, that were the brains behind how this whole thing worked. And then there was a bunch of us peons building supporting software around this infrastructure. And so I get hired on, and I'm building a Windows Forms application for people who review the chats. So customer would buy this big software package, their AI bot is chatting with people, and they had people that would go through and review the chats to effectively grade the AI bot on how it's doing and go, nope, it clearly got that question wrong, or oh yeah, good job. And so that way they could then start tweaking it to get its accuracy up, and it was all a numbers game. And so we were building out the software that was helping people do that. And this was, I think we had started in on it shortly before WPF was released. So this would have been, WPF came out in 2005? Is that what it is? Trying to remember what this was. No, it had to be later than that, right? Oh, if you have to spell WPF, WP, then F. 2006. 2006. So this would have probably then been 2007 or 2008, because WPF had been out for like a year or two. There had been a bunch of reorgs, and the developer that I was working on, because I was a junior guy and there was a senior guy there. Arguably, I credit him. I'll usually refer to him as being my original programming mentor, because he was amazing. I learned a ton from him, because I think I worked under him for 3 years. And that was probably the sharpest curve in my learning, just from everything. He was very happy to just throw code away and redo it. Very happy to, like, he was not attached to any bit of code. If they could be done better, burn it down, do it better. It's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Like, there was I could critique anything he wrote, and nothing was off limits, which was cool. But one day he goes, you know what? I think it's time. I think we need to rebuild this app that we were building in WPF. There was a couple things we had done in Windows Forms, because Windows Forms is great, but some things are really, really hard. Like, for example, putting an image and some text inside of a button is really hard. They're like, Windows Forms is awesome, but without like extra library support or different things, certain things are just insanely difficult. And the UI customization of WPF is far superior to Windows Forms. Now, Windows Forms has other advantage, but the UI layer of customization, like I think I can back this one up pretty easily. WPF takes the cake. And so that rewrite, because I don't know how he conned management into it, but they allocated, I think, a sprint or two for us to do nothing other than rewrite this app from Windows Forms into WPF. And I think that was a really steep learning curve, because I didn't know MVVM. We kind of use bindings in Windows Forms, but we weren't doing them that much. And Windows Forms bindings were weird. Like, the is visible property, the getter and setter have slightly different meanings. It just head blew up, which was always frustrating me. So there was all of that, but I think to go back to the original question of, did I learn WPF at Olive Tree? No, I learned it at the employer just prior to that. There was a lot of self-teaching, because it was one of those technologies that I fell in love with as soon as I started using it, and I would then go and build apps with it. And that was arguably a lot of the learning that came from it, because the general rule is, once you've spent like 10,000, I think it's 10,000 hours. I think that's usually like a ballpark metric of what people say is you got to spend 10,000 hours on something before you're an expert in it. And again, that's take it as you will, but it's an okayish metric of, you know, where you're at. I easily have my 10,000 hours, possibly more than that, because I have spent a sizable amount of time doing it. So the falling in love with it happened before Olive Tree. There was a lot of learning at Olive Tree, and one of my current colleagues was actually my team lead at Olive Tree, which was fun, and him and I would go back and forth on stuff. And so it was one of those, I joked when he applied to work at Intelitech, I very happily passed along his resume with a recommendation letter. And I remember one of the upper management guys immediately replied to my email and went, okay, we need to hold off on this guy. Kevin's clearly lying. He's claiming that this other guy is as good at WPF as he is. And there was a big joke at that. So that was always fun. I have completely... Darn you, Benjamin. I completely lost my train of thought. Good work. But yes, that is the long history to cover for that. Okay, so we go there, add single comment. Mr. Kevin Darklord or WPF. Yeah, I definitely don't mind rabbit trailing. Like, for anybody who hasn't been in the chat before, I am very happy for questions and rabbit trail discussions. I do them a lot. It's okay. Next one. For anyone who hasn't seen, oh wait, did it? Oh, see, that's how often I go to this particular comic. It's in my autocomplete. That's bad. So for anybody who hasn't seen this one before, this is one of those XKCD comics that you just have to know. It's kind of like the phrase like debugging or rubber duck debugging or WAT. If you aren't familiar, like, I need to put together a small pamphlet for people for development terms that you should know that aren't really based on real things that you would be expected to learn in a book or academia, but they're thrown around a lot. Nerd sniping. Randall Monroe, I think, gets credit for this one. I'm not aware of an earlier reference to nerd sniping before this, but if there is one, let me know. This is one that gets thrown around a lot because it's very easy to nerd snipe people. Developers, I would argue, are only worth 1 point because typically developers have a mindset that's really easy to nerd snipe. Really easy. So developers are probably just 1 point, which is unfortunate. For what it's worth. Okay, and then this one here is going to be the other brush. And then we go edit, boom, to cover this case. Add single comment. And resolve conversation. And then I think this guy goes to bed. Okay, we left combo box for now. Right? Yeah, we skipped that one. Grid splitter. Why did I not mark this one off? Style naming mismatch. Okay, so this is once again yet one more case where we probably just need to change this up. So grid splitter, and I think it's the only style even in there. Here. Oh, so pro tip, because I realized some of my colleagues the other day didn't know about this button. So you can have your Solution Explorer stay in sync with whatever file you have highlighted. I don't like it bouncing around on me. However, quite often, based on the tab that I'm on, I want to move my Solution Explorer. These two little annoying double arrows, whoop, right there, that button, the little, right? So they'll bounce you automatically and jump you to whatever tab you have. So if you haven't seen that, very useful function. Very, very useful function. And apparently the hotkey is Control left square brace S. For those of you who can do that maneuver with your fingers. I just click the mouse. Some people don't like that idea because, developers hands on the keyboard, yada yada yada. But it's okay. It's okay to use a mouse. It won't bite. Yeah, it's a very simple hotkey. Sorry. Occasionally, I really should turn everything off, but occasionally I get emails and notifications that come in midstream, and I just kind of have to briefly glance at them because they have titles that are terrifying. This one was less terrifying once I look closer. Okay, so Grid Splitter 7. And actually, this one is... Oh, this is slightly different. Let's look at 13. What's going on here? So this is setting the background. What's going on here? Okay, one, we got to split these up. What the heck is going on here? Material Design Splitter Preview. Got it. Okay, so for those people unfamiliar with it, the grid splitter control is the one that is often not really visible to a lot of people. It's when you're, for example, this little guy right here is a grid splitter, right? You can see him kind of going back and forth a little bit. Yeah. What was the title? MS drops WPF in favor of new Hawaii island that it built for the purpose of calling UWP 2.0. .NET Maui, and yes, that's a great description. It is once again claiming that it will kill off WPF. But I usually tell people I will believe it when it happens, because there have been several attempts from Microsoft saying, oh, this latest technology is going to be the one that finally kills WPF and Windows Forms. Yeah, I don't think they're going to die. The other thing that is keeping WPF alive is Visual Studio itself. Large portions of Visual Studio are WPF. Which, here, for anybody who hasn't seen this fun trick, I'll demonstrate. There's I will often, if you find bugs in Visual Studio, you should absolutely come over here to this little report button and report them. I actually went through my list the other day. Microsoft has actually fixed the vast majority of the issues I've reported, which a lot of my issues that I report come around from the fact that I leave my font size bumped up a few points. I think it defaults to 14 and I run it at 16 or something. Just because I do so much streaming and presenting, I've just gotten used to the fonts all being a little bigger. I'm not actually as blind as I may appear. Or maybe I am, and it's just helpful both ways. But one of the things that I will do when I report bugs is I'll literally come in here and just actually even snoop it. Yeah, sure, we can go multiple app domains. So yeah, so for reference, if it's not obvious, Visual Studio is actually a somewhat advanced little piece of software that you can come in here and actually snoop Visual Studio. Like, this is a bug that they elected to not fix, and it bothers me. It bothers me because I literally found the assembly and the XAML file. In my case, I was looking at the decompiled BAML, but I showed them where the change needed to be made, right? Because see this checkbox? This bothers me a great deal. This checkbox is aligned to the top, and the content is not. It is set to stretch, right? This bothers me a great deal, and apparently I am the only one bothered by this. Because right? Vertical content alignment. Watch this, watch this. Boom, there! See? Okay. Like, which one of these two text boxes looks better? The one that's lined up straight, or the one where where the box is shoved all the way to the top? I submit the center looks better. So far, I think that's the only Visual Studio bug that I've logged. And it annoyed me because I found the assembly, found the line, and was like, this is where the style is being set. Change this thing here. I cannot make it easier. I've joked with people that I need to get a job on the Visual Studio team just long enough for me to fix all my bugs and quit. Do you know what technology Word or Excel is written on? I can't know for sure. I believe, and take this with a grain of salt, I believe a lot of the Office products are React Native. I think. But the thing with a lot of the Office stuff is it's been rewritten so many times. I don't know if there's an easy way to say. Where is the, I just want to look at the, how do I look at properties? There. I just want to know where the heck you are located. Open file location, because sometimes you can kind of grok a little bit by the assemblies that are in here. So whatever's under the hood, like that's the Visual C++ runtime. That doesn't tell me a lot. Tell me runtime.dll. That's interesting. Just looking to see, because sometimes there's some obvious telltale DLLs that will give you very strong hints as to what things were built with. I think the front end is React Native, but again, GK Word. But I don't know enough about their compiled output. So here's the other thing that I'm noticing, though, that these ones here look to me to be the, what is it, WinUI runtime assemblies, or at least these are the, and this is where things kind of get a little weird, right? Is just like how in C# we can reference unmanaged assemblies and leverage them. That can happen with other languages too. So this looks to me to be the Windows SDK, which is what like WinUI and whatnot is built on. But yeah, I think at one point in time I read a blog post where somebody was saying that it was React Native was the actual front end on top of it. But again, it can be shelling out to all kinds of things. It was one of those blog posts that was trying to make arguments for, you know, what UI technology should I pick for my next app or thereabouts. Okay, so we want a grid splitter background brush, I think. And I think this is just as simple as we just need yet one more brush. So we're going to grab here. Let's see. I am questioning whether I should keep the alternate keys or keep everything separate. I might have to think about that. I suspect this is why I say there's going to probably be some like once this merges, there's probably going to be a hello. Why can I not enter key? I can do that. I can't backspace and I can't enter. Don't save. Let me edit my own file, please. I suspect that this will get merged and there may be some revamp that happens. Okay, I don't have the ability to backspace or enter. That's an interesting issue. GPT says no. Well, who am I to argue with our robot overlords? Okay, so backspace and enter work. Just not in Visual Studio. Okay, I have no idea how I've gotten myself into this state. We're just going to reboot it because for whatever reason, it no worky. There are times where when you see an app misbehave, my default setting is to immediately think there must be some code in the application somewhere that is able to trigger this behavior. Now, possibly completely unintentional, right? Or, you know, bug or whatever, right? But there is some bit of code that is able to trigger that obnoxious behavior that we're seeing. And it just, sometimes it blows my mind that it's like, wait, What kind of waddy piece of garbage code is in there? So we're gonna do, see, material design brush, grid splitter. I think we just call it background and call it a day. All right, I think that's all we do. And then I'm going to remember to rebuild. I'm going to generate. And bippity boppity. View changes, lots of files, great. Yeah, like the fact that it, wait, hang on. I already have a grid splitter background. My sort generator is not that smart, apparently. So in reality, what I should do is I should burn this to the ground. It's probably set in an alternate key somewhere, and it just didn't get applied here. So if this already exists, where else is it being? Oh, it's being used up here. Hang on. Hang on. We got a bit of an issue here. Okay, so here's what we do. We come in here and we go trash the whole thing. Start over. Okay, where is this guy defined, and what is the difference between that background? C, D, E, F, G, H. Oh, so I just put mine in the wrong place. So there is already a background. Oh, so this should actually probably be the difference between preview background and background. So this should probably be preview background, right? And this goes to be preview background. And then this, we should do the little paste maneuver here, boop, and this should be just background, because that will make more sense. That, then we'll regen, and this guy then becomes this guy here. There we go. Let's just double check this. There's nothing else in here I need to be concerned with. These inline storyboards always make me twitch, but whatever. Why are we doing static resource here? Oh, is it so we can do a stop storyboard later? I bet you there's a stop storyboard. I bet you there's a stop storyboard, or there was an intention, there was a thought of doing it at one point. Okay. That should... Oh. Did I rebuild already? Let's see. I'm new to publishing stuff and Windows desktop apps. I want to create a signed package. Is it true I'm supposed to buy one of these expensive code signing certs, or is there a no-cost workaround? Ah, haha. You have landed on a very, 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 very unfortunate situation. So there's both a yes and a no answer to that, and it depends on how you want to do your publishing. So I think there's basically three big alternatives. Option one is basically you do some work to generate an installer. I would bucket things like Squirrel, Wix, Inno. There's a bunch of technologies out there that are all around make me an installer thing. There is the Windows Store, which kind of works around this problem, because then you are effectively validating to the store, and then it does the end signing of it, so it validates the authenticity of it, as it were. And then there's kind of a middle ground with, and maybe I should bucket ClickOnce. I was going to put ClickOnce in its own bucket, but you can kind of put ClickOnce by itself. The short version is, in an ideal situation, buying a code signing certificate from a trusted CA is the right way to do things. That has been a situation that has repeatedly bothered me because it is very expensive, and people who do this as hobbyists or whatnot, that is a very large chunk of change to swallow, because I think it's a few $100s to start. It's been a while since I've looked. Don't quote me on that. But they are not cheap. But they come with the idea that they are signed by a trusted CA, which then allows a lot of easy bypass for things like UAC prompts. Even with that, it's important to understand that just being signed with a trusted certificate doesn't fully get you out of the warning that a user may get that, hey, we don't know if this app is secure or not. And the reason is because the logic about whether a user sees that warning isn't just, is this package signed or not? It comes from the idea of, is the package signed from a trusted publisher? And the trusted publisher comes from building up reputation. So when users install apps that are signed with a particular certificate, Microsoft tracks that. And if your certificate is known to be used on apps that are installed and it isn't found to like contain malware or whatnot, you build rep, and then eventually that dialogue goes away. But it takes time and users in order to trigger that case. And it's not something that just buying a cert gets you out of. The other thing that you can do is you can do a self-signed cert and just accept the fact that users are going to see that prompt. And for a lot of like hobbyist level stuff, that's probably good enough in terms of signing it, where they get the little, hey, they have to hit, I'm trying to remember what the name of the button is. Is it like they get the warning that says this is an untrusted app or whatever the prompt is, and the default button is cancel because Microsoft's like, I don't want to scare them. And so you can sign with a self-signed cert, and that actually comes up in the Microsoft docs. I think around like MSIX docs, they'll talk about the self-signed cert path, and they'll comment that the self-signed cert is for like debug and testing scenarios. Is there not also a mark of the web that influences if the prompt is shown? That could be a thing that goes into it. So the actual mark of the web that usually shows up is actually added by web browsers when a download occurs. So when you like download a zip file or similar, or even like an Office document, you'll get the, here, I'll just open containing folder. This will work, right? So if you look at the properties on a file, there'll be a little thing down here that says something like untrusted file, and there's like an unblock button. What actually is occurring there is when the browser downloads one of those files, on Windows uses what's called the NTFS file system. And files on the NTFS file system can have multiple streams, right? So we all familiar with the APIs for file.open, right? You get a file stream back, you can interact with the stream. That's the main stream, but there can be other streams on that same exact file. And browsers tack in an extra stream that indicates whether it was, which is where it gets that mark of the web. So you can actually dodge getting that added to your files if A, you don't download via a browser, so you pull it with PowerShell or whatever, or you can bypass it by putting the file on a FAT32 file system, because FAT32 is not NTFS and doesn't have the file stream, so it loses the mark of the web at that point. So if you download to like a thumb drive or an SD card or something that's formatted FAT32, it bypasses that same check. Don't abuse this. For what it's worth. Or you can manipulate the alternate file streams with PowerShell or C# or other things to have fun with them. So whether that mark of the web influences the prompt, I don't know for certain. my gut reaction says is it doesn't, but I could be wrong. I don't know that for a fact. But as far as I'm aware, Microsoft hasn't fully published like the algorithm that it goes by. Like they always, every time I've heard them speak about it, it's always more general terms of, hey, these are the things that go into it, and then we make a determination. It's like, great, and how do you make the determination? Yes. Not helpful. So it could be one of the inputs. I have no idea. So that's actually one of the things. So I've been playing around with my Skirday project as well. Okay, shameless self-promotion time. Close Snoop, you're in my way. Let's see. Okay, so for those people who aren't familiar with the scientific word for a squirrel, it would be Skirday. This is built on the idea of, and actually I should, what am I doing? Cloud squirrel. So depending, if you haven't already settled on an installer technology, Deflux, you may take a brief gander at Cloud Squirrel, because it's got a lot of nicety things in it. You might also even take a run at the V3 stuff. So this is still in preview, still subject to change, but the V3 stuff, at least in terms of Windows, is fairly stable and isn't expected to have any major changes going into it. It's the Mac side of things that's in a little bit more of flux. But if you're building a desktop app, this is so Cloud Squirrel came from the regular Squirrel project. The problem is the Squirrel project is really slow to update. You'll note September 27th, 2020, right? And there's been a handful of things where it's like, guys, there's known vulnerabilities, please fix this. And I think, where is it? There's a comparison chart back and forth between what you get and what you don't get, right? So Cloud Squirrel is a little bit bigger, but better compatibility, right? Better comments. It fixes the sharp compress dependency. It doesn't take dependencies on all this other stuff, right? So there's a lot of cleanup, and if you want to compare and contrast them, I really like using this for my WPF apps. My Skirday project, assuming I can get it all the way working, because I was struggling with it the other day. The whole idea with this is that it is a turnkey solution for a WPF app. Probably others, but I'm starting with WPF as my focus because that's what I care about. Do I have a sample? Let me look at my commit history. I can't remember. Did I push? I must not have pushed my branch. Oh, that's terrifying. I may have lost work. That'd be really disappointing if I didn't push my branch. It'd be very, very disappointing. No, it shows Net 7 upgrade 10 months ago. That's not right. I need to go back and look. I'd be very unhappy with myself if I lost work on here, because I was building out some integration tests. The idea being that you add this NuGet package to your project, you set up some properties in your CS proj just like you would for building a NuGet package, and then you run .NET Publish, and you're done. That's the end goal. And the big difference of what this adds beyond what Cloud Squirrel does, because Cloud Squirrel is set up with some really nice properties if you want to publish out to one of its well-known locations. So the way Squirrel works in general is that, hang on, oh, more shameless self-promotion. IntelliTech Squirrel. That is, yeah, this one. Okay, good. Our SEO isn't crap. So if you're interested, this is a slightly older blog post that I wrote. Nothing functionally has changed about Squirrel since I wrote this blog post. That's how slow they update. So despite the fact that this is old, this is this is still accurate information as far as I'm aware. If you find something different, let me know. But Cloud Squirrel functions essentially the same way. So you have new spec stuff, you generate, you build, but at the end of the day, what you end up with is a releases file. And this is just a text, a new line delimited text file that lists out all of your versions, right? And then there's the setup things and the NuGet package stuff. If you publish this out to a GitHub release, like what is being done here, there's nice support to then let GitHub effectively manage that releases file for you and do all of the work. So Cloud Squirrel has some nice CLI commands built into it to make your life really easy if that's where you want to publish. Right? The one thing I don't necessarily like about that is, in order for the updates to work, Squirrel installers, where is my code sample? I thought I saw it. To do the updates within your app, you have to create it. You have to do the update call yourself. That's not something that you get for free out of the box. You have to determine when and how updates occur. So this isn't like click once where it does it all for you. You create an update manager and you tell it where to look for updates. Now, this is also convenient because say you want to have like an alpha, beta, and release feeds. You could just create 3 of these suckers, point them at each of the different locations of where those things are, and away you go. The problem is this location has to be pointed somewhere where it can find that releases file for the manifest. That's how it knows. It goes, okay, what do I have? What's in this releases file? Okay, now I can, either do the appropriate updates or whatnot. This amount of work is painful to me, and I didn't like it. So the idea with Skirday is I wanted to have a web API that I could point this guy at, and then I wanted it to sit between the storage mechanism and whatever, and the app itself, so that if I want to change where the storage is at, I want to move it from, storage account A to storage account B, or maybe move it into GitHub artifact or whatever, right? I don't want to have to worry about, well, I can't do that easily because old versions are going to be looking here for the releases file. I wanted kind of one central API where that could all be managed. And then it generates the releases file kind of ish on the fly is the idea, so that it can control the releases, so that if you need to, unlist something, or if you want to manage multiple channels, that kind of thing, you can get away with it. So, because that's the other limitation of, like, if you use Cloud Squirrel and point it at a GitHub release, you don't have the ability of doing like that alpha beta channel thing, because you only have one place to look for the file. So unless you want to write some code to go through and do some work and that kind of thing. And if you're going to write code to do it, that's where Skirday came in. And I was like, I kind of want something to have it working. But I did run into a couple minor problems. I thought I had revved it up to like the V3 of Cloud Squirrel, and I was working on building some integration tests because I want to go end to end with my testing on it of .NET new app, add NuGet package. Like I was trying to script the entire bloody process of, I'm going to go .NET new, add the thing, and away we go. So if you're interested and you haven't picked an installer technology, Squirrel or Cloud Squirrel are very popular options out there. There's a lot of main apps that are using it. For example, GitKraken uses it to deploy their stuff out. So it can't be that bad, because my beloved GitKraken uses it. So there's that. That's kind of an important detail. Okay. I've already once again lost my place. So this was adding in the grid splitter. Did you ever get your .NET template with multiple options to work? Yes-ish. I got it far enough along working, and then I backed up and started questioning if I wanted that or not. Because I had a realization that I might actually want things out of sync intentionally. And that got me a little... I then backed up and started questioning not if I could, but if I should, which is a hard question to answer. Um, so yes-ish. I got it far enough to question if I was even doing the right thing. And then I kind of paused for a minute because I was like, I don't know. But you make a good point. It would be cool to circle back to. Let's see. Added new and to cover the brushes in this file. Also, Michael, if you're watching, thank you, thank you, thank you. All of these review bits have been amazing. You are awesome. To handle the net sparkle. Ooh. Ooh. No, but it sounds cool. Let's... So they support at least most of all the big things. There's at least something that was committed recently, though that's in the VS Code folder and the GitHub folder. When's their last release? 2 weeks ago. Okay, so that's pretty recent. And the one before that was November of 2022. Okay, so interesting. This is how updates work. Yeah. Let's see. Does not help you with one. That makes sense. Two. It's interesting that they don't try to do this because step 2 is actually legitimately one of the big things that Squirrel tries to do. And 4. Yeah, so I would argue Squirrel tries to handle 2 for you, and Cloud Squirrel tries to handle it in a cross-platform way. So this idea that a cross-platform installer package system would be difficult, yes, and that's why we applaud Cloud Squirrel for taking it on. And 4 is arguably what Skirriday is trying to go for. Yeah, and it doesn't, like, Skirriday only partially helps you with number 4. Like, it doesn't help you upload the files somewhere. It expects you to put them somewhere, but then it plays middleman doing the redirection. But this doesn't seem bad. The other thing with like Squirrel and Cloud Squirrel that's worth noting is you don't get customization on the install. Like, you know, the next finish experience wizardy thing for installs that most people are used to. You don't get any of that. Squirrel is designed to install into the user's local app data, so it doesn't need UAC, and it's designed to install so bloody fast that it doesn't pop an install screen. That's its purpose in life, is to go really fast on the install. The setting that they have in Squirrel for if you should pull up the splash screen, I think only triggers if your installer takes more than 4 seconds. And most of the time, you'll never see the splash screen because the install is done that fast. Because it takes them longer to get the splash screen up than that 4 seconds. So they intentionally delay even going to pop it until your app has taken so long on the install. They go, okay, I guess we should put it up now. Interesting. This looks interesting. It's curious how they have this set up. Like, this looks really powerful, but yeah, I question how this feels like a lot of steps, but maybe I just need to actually go through and gen this. Oh, oh wow. App Center. Wow. Okay, so yeah, so I will caution people. App Center is amazing and wonderful. Um the it is functionally dead though. Like, Microsoft hasn't killed it completely, but don't expect to see any updates coming to it. It's pretty, yeah, it's kind of DOA. Even though it's nice, I would not start new projects on it at all. Didn't notice Cloud Squirrel 3 will also be cross-platform. Yeah, that is the big thing for it, is the cross-platform support. Skirday should be cross-platform. The only thing I will caution of is I'm aware that Skirday needs to have probably 2 NuGet packages, one that's WPF specific and one that's just the core library bits. Right now it's all mushed into one. So at the moment, I'm trying to think what's in there that might not work. The bits that are inside the NuGet package right now that are not cross-platform, I think are all around the code generation that it does for you. Because in order to make it easy, Skirday generates some additional bits of code that it injects with source generators and MS Build Magic in order to put the right things in the right places. So there's some of that would probably need to be separated out. Let's see. Are you able to do templates in a way that after you start a repo, you can later apply something like the actions template? So you can always do .NET templates after the fact. So for example, let me grab a new terminal here. So we'll just do right. So if we look here, I've got a gitignore file that's already in my repo. But say I'm like, you know what? I'd really like the .NET one. So, but if I do, .NET new gitignore, right? You got to spell it correctly. You'll note it immediately goes, hang on. That's going to overwrite existing files. So the default behavior of the .NET new templates is to not overwrite anything, which is generally safe. But there's nothing stopping you from saying, nah, do it. And if you're under source control, it's not that big of a deal, right? You can apply the template and go in and look at it. So if you, if you realize, oh, I'd like to start a project, but I'd like some of the stuff that you have in your template. Well, 1, commit all your changes, save your state first, right? And then just run .NET new with the thing, and it'll override everything with the contents of the template, and then you can just revert the files and or bits that you don't want, right? Is there essentially a skip option to add files that aren't added already? No. Yeah, and that's the thing is there is that subtle difference between what is like an item template or a repo level template, and you still kind of functionally define them out. They're very similar in terms of what you write, but you can just do the individual one. But yeah, the actions thing, I think Mr. X is right. The easiest thing is just an item template and do it. And that's part of where I got back to that idea on my templates repo of thinking, is this actually the right solution? because and that's what that got me thinking of is, do I actually want to have these things be part of them or not? And that's where I was like, I'm not sure I actually want them to be that way. I kind of feel like if I want, like, for example, if I do a GitHub Actions template, right, that has some published stuff in it, and I'm like, I'd really like that to be applied to my other project templates. I feel like I want to intentionally go through and do the .NET new, Caboose cool action template here, -- for some of my other templates. I want to do that very explicitly on a case-by-case basis rather than having it go all the way through. So and that's where it's like, because I realize I'm packaging multiple templates into a single NuGet package. And that also means that if, like, my WPF template is a solution template, and if somebody wants a bit of one of the other templates in it, they can always go and apply that. And that's where I was like, I could try to automate that away, but at the end of the day, it almost feels better to let them be out of sync. For, like, it's not always... Developers like to keep everything dry because that's what they were taught. And sometimes I don't know if that's the right answer. Okay, list box 37. Same song, another verse. Let's see, here. But yes, at some point, once I get Skirday actually working, I want to go through and do it. The other thing that bit me is I built Skirday and I was playing with, I think it was just regular Squirrel at first. And regular Squirrel, it's update exe bootstrapper. There was something up with it that I was getting bit, and Windows Defender was deleting it on me. And it was real, and it took me so long to figure out why things weren't working, because Windows Defender was like, oh, that's a virus, I'm gonna burn it down. I'm like, what the? And to its credit, it keeps working just fine with that file gone. It just, has trouble updating because the bootstrapper for the updater's gone. Really annoying. But Cloud Squirrel 3 doesn't have that problem because it got, the mechanism by which it works is much cleaner. Casey went through and redid a bunch of it. I even helped out with, on the Cloud Squirrel 3, the CLI app, because there's a global tool for it. I did the rev that updated it to system command line. So there was a bit of that, which was fun and interesting, and it was fun to at least contribute a little bit to it. Okay, I already forgot. What was it? What's my line number? 37. Okay, 37. So this one here, list box item, the border is the hover background. This is probably a good case to just do list box item border. Ooh, this is interesting. I should probably do it as list box item. I'm only hesitating here because I think on some of the other ones I did it as the parent control, which is generally list box. This one gets awkward because list view is a thing as well. I think it's better to do this as list box item. Yeah, I think material design, brush, list box item, dot border makes the most sense. Yeah, let's do that. Oh, we want the text box hover background. Have you figured out a good GitHub action template yet to share bits between repos? Because I like the idea, but haven't found it worthwhile enough to actually build it out. Benjamin, can you explain further? I'm not sure I understand the question. do you mean by share between repos? See, there. This box item border. Run the keys down. And then I go here. Then I go here. And I go here. And then we go and check what else is in this file. That's the only comment. Oh, you could create actions that could be reused as steps. Yes. I think though in this case, like reusing workflows or at least parks like the DevOps does decently well. So there's a couple layers to that get weird, right? Like GitHub Actions, they've been very clear, is not DevOps, and that the two things attack differently. Because DevOps has the templating concept, which is very much, it's kind of like the C++ preprocessor. It takes your input file, rips it through, functionally generates out a new block of YAML, and then runs that. That's kind of the way the templates work. Whereas GitHub Actions, they don't have templates. But that doesn't mean you have to like repeat yourself with your YAML. There's just other ways to attack it. And I think the hardest part for me is I have yet to come up with a good system, at least from the GitHub Actions side, that I like. Because I don't necessarily know, like I will generally copy my GitHub action around, but there are a few things that are very hyper specific to the app and the domain for what it is. Like for example, even on my, so if we go and look here, because this is one of the areas where I was contemplating doing it, is on my templates, right? So if we take the NuGet one, for example, right? My NuGet template, I actually include a GitHub action in here, right? As a starting point. And the only reason I can do this is because this is a solution level template and you get all the things out of the gate, right? And this is sort of in a state where I think this is kind of like, oh, look at that. There's a bug in it. See, this is why I shouldn't be allowed. Dang nabbit, now I gotta fix it. I can't let a bug sit while I know about it. Upload NuGet artifact. Now I gotta look at this real quick to make sure. Yeah, let's see. Fixing step name. Commit directly. Bypass rules and commit changes. Yeah, just do it. I don't want to think too hard. So there is some interesting stuff around here for doing that. I still have yet to determine what is the state that I like, right? Because with all of these things, like, because Mr. X calls out, you can make your own steps. You can do all these things to share out your YAML. And then going through and doing it. Yeah, I see what you're saying. You effectively want to automate your way. And I think the hard part is, depending on what the change is, some of that can be automated. Some of it can't be. Like, if you knew you had 10 plus repos that were all using this same YAML file, it would be fairly trivial to basically run the So one, say hypothetically you'd built 10 repos using this, and I just fixed the name of this step, and you're like, oh shoot, I've got that same thing in all 10 of my repos, right? You could pull the latest template, run .NET new, -- force, apply the template, and then git revert everything that's not this file, right? That's something that's easily scriptable. But I think because the types of changes are going to be so dynamic, like, I agree, it would be nice to have things at a top level, but it requires a level of templating where there's not really any infrastructure built in place. And I think that's why the GitHub CLI is kind of exists, is because the intent is to try to encourage people to be able to build the edits that they want rather than expecting them all to be handled. Because if they at least leave the hooks for people to build their own automation, they'll go through and do it, depending on what the task is. And I think that's the key, depending on what the task is. Because the task may not be straightforward. Boom. Can I just say how much I love being able to have my brushes genned like that? Like, being able to have all my theme brushes. Oh, is there some sharing of actions or action variables possible with the user global GitHub repo one can create? I don't think so. There is a concept, because GitHub Actions are literally just GitHub repos with tags. There is some stuff around, and this is usually around GitHub Enterprise, so I don't know how much of this is in like regular free accounts. But there is this concept of being able to effectively like build out some shared policies and actions in that regard. But at the end of the day, the apps consuming them are still, they're basically using either the reusable workflows or the action syntax inside of the repo's workflow to reach back across to go and get it. So there's kind of a little bit there. And again, the hard part being that yeah, reusing workflows. Yeah, it's just people wanted reusable workflows to be .NET templates, and they really aren't, right? So you can kind of get this, but again, the key thing with all of these is where's the uses? Yeah. So all of these things, this is effectively your share, right? Of owner, repo name, and then the at gitref. And the important part is that this is gitref, right? So it can be branch. Like in this case, it's going to track forward with latest main. Oftentimes people will point those at tags because tags aren't expected to move. They're expected to be in stationary on a given thing. So it lets you go through and pin it, or yeah, SHA for if you want an individual commit or whatnot. So you can pin stuff where necessary. So you can kind of get this, but yeah. Yeah, it is one of those things that I think sometimes we also forget how because when were GitHub Actions released? That's on May 10th. Of what year, please? What was the... So 2018. So it's also worth remembering that GitHub Actions are kind of one of the new kids on the block. Like if you compare them with when DevOps was released or AppVeyor or any of the other big ones that have been around, they're kind of playing catch up to a lot of people. Like there's a lot of features that most of the other systems have had years to implement. And yeah, even GitHub environments are less than 3 years old. Yeah. So GitHub Actions are advancing really rapidly considering that, because I think they came into the game understanding like we're uniquely positioned to make this awesome, but we're also years behind the competition. Like that whole idea of first to market wins. Yeah. GitHub did not adhere to that. They just went, you know what? I guess we're going for it. Oh, if you don't push it, it doesn't go up. Let's see. Let's see here. Added to address this. Add single comment. Man, I wish this thing wasn't so bloody slow. Every single click. GitHub definitely slows down when you hammer it with things like this. Let's view. Like I tried to go through and clear out everything that didn't have comments so that it was collapsed and out of the way, and it still is just this poor little browser is dragging behind. So this is going to be list view 36. So this is just going to be the next guy over, right? So take me there. Boom. 36. Yeah, because this here is a beautiful example of why the old way of doing brushes sucked, right? There's a border in that's, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4 levels deep inside of a template on a scroll viewer that's used inside of a grid view, which is inside of a list view. So we're at minimum 6 levels deep. And somebody wants to change the background of this guy. There's not a clean way of doing that. It's just you're hosed. So the question though is, what should this brush be called? Because it is the border brush. Well, this is functionally an underline. So the way the thickness objects works in WPF, right, is you kind of, if you can remember your unit circle. Yeah, I'm probably pointing this wrong. Yeah, I think my video is right. You know, left, top, right, bottom. Sorry, I've got so many things on my camera are like mirrored or inverted. I sometimes forget which way things are pointed. I think, am I pointing left? I think I'm pointing left for people. Can't remember if my preview's inverted or not though, so I might be pointing right. Yes, pointed left. Ah, I did get it right. So the fact that this is only the 4th digit means it's the bottom one. So this is functionally an underline. What is this doing? So this is the scroll viewer. Don't care about you. This is a grid. It's a grid with something on the right and the bottom. Inside the grid is a dock panel. Got it. So the thing on the right is a scroll bar. The thing on the bottom is a scroll bar. Got it. So that's why that's set up the way it is. Got it. That makes sense. The dock panel is in the middle of the grid. It's taking up the big thingy-mabobber there. There is a scroll viewer inside of it. So this is a template on a scroll viewer that wraps a scroll viewer. Excellent. There's no way that's confusing to anybody. And then it puts a small underline. Grid view. Oh, I got it. So this is the header row. So this is actually a separator. Because this creates a... Why do we have this stack panel? Right, we have to have a stack panel oriented because we have a rectangle. Got it. Okay, so that's why all those are there. So there's a border around a stack panel that has the header rows. This is the header rows. This guy is set up so that it can scroll the headers as needed, or the content as needed, because there is the content in the middle. Right. Okay, so I'm kind of wondering what to call this guy, right? Let's just confirm that I'm right, that this is in fact the separator between the header row um and the content beneath it. I think that's the case. I think that's the case. That should be the case, right? Probably, maybe. It's times like these, i.e., 11 o'clock at night, when you've only had one can of Mountain Dew and you start questioning your sanities on list views. I'm sure it's just me though. Ahaha! Separator line between header and content. I can read a template. I'm not as crazy as I think I am. Okay. So, if that is what it is, what then is the appropriate name? Because this style is keyed on grid view scroll viewer style. So it's only ever going to show up. I think grid view is the right key here. I'm tempted to call it header separator. I think, because functionally that's what it's doing, right? It's the separator between the header and the content. Is that a good name? The old adage of computer science. Is it a good name? Is it a good name? I do not know. I do not know. I do not know. Maybe. I think we're gonna go with that. Grid view comes after grid splitter because V comes after S in the alphabet. Last I checked. So I want that much there. And then that goes there. Also, for people who haven't found it, in Windows 10 and 11, if you, I don't remember the last time I used Control V. If you train your fingers to move just slightly off of the Control key onto the Windows key and go Windows key V, that's where you get this cool little paste buffer thingamabobber. And more importantly, this thing has like paste as plain text. So, because I know I'm not the only one who opens up Notepad, pastes in the rich text document just to strip the formatting and copy it back out. You don't have to do that. You can just come in here and paste as plain text. I think on Windows 10, these buttons don't exist and it's buried underneath the little dot. There's like a little context menu thing that drops from here or something. It's a slightly different view, but same idea. Let's see here. Rebuild. And then we're going to go here, Gen Brush. And then we come here, World's a Happy Place. Adding. Oh, did I? Nope, I just copied poorly. Okay, the R is there. R is not there. See? Double check that. Because that would have been bad. And in reality, I probably should be writing UI tests for every single one of these cases, but I kind of just want to get this thing merged. Let's see. Added. Give me the whole brush name. There. To handle this case. In some apps, Control-Shift-V paste is plain text. Oh, that's a good point. Yes. And Power Toys is definitely worthwhile for anybody who is unfamiliar with that thing. Go get it. Okay, so we've got one more in here on 155. Let's go look at 155. So this is the grid view item. See, this is where things get weird, right? The grid view still uses list view items. So do you name the brush with list view item, or do you name it with grid view? So what do we got here? This is once again a functionally an underline. So I don't think we call this thing underline. I think whatever we call this thing needs to end with the word separator to be in sync with the other thing. But do we call it list view item separator? Or should it be grid view item separator? Would we share this brush between the two? Probably not. So I think grid view item makes more sense. Wait. Set property background. Did that one get called out too? No, that one got missed. Is mouse over hover background. This is probably worth looking at. Now, see, this is where I'm torn, right? Because like here we're using list view. Do we have a list view hover already? Just a selected. I'm wondering if it makes sense to do a list view hover. And then I'm wondering if this should be list view item? We did list box item. Should it be, should we have the item things just go to the top? I'm wondering if it makes more sense to do list view separator. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to just group them all under the parent naming? I think it probably does. I think it probably does. Let me look at what we genned already though. Grid view header separator. Man, that's probably a better name though. Should it be? Trying to decide if it makes more sense. This one is really going to be specific to there. Should this one, like, I think we should just do grid view. Boy, I'm torn because if I do this as grid view, because now I'm questioning what we did before, if this should actually be list view. Maybe it should be. Maybe that really should be list view. And separate it that way. Because the grid view is really contained inside the parent list view. That's probably okay. It's probably okay. So if we do that, now you're in the wrong place even. So let's move you. Because I do have a feeling I'm going to end up going through here and... Oh, that needs to be above. I have a feeling I'm going to be going through these and then redoing some of these. But it's much easier to redo them once they're all in. So if that's the case, that then makes the next one much easier to determine. Right? Because it was... Lost my line numbers. Let's see, collapse. No, I want list view. List view header separator, and then I'm going to be on 155 for the other one. So this then becomes list view separator. And then the question is, should the header separator be a separate brush? Is it worth that knowledge? Because that was hover background. That was hover background. Previously, they were using the same brush. Should it just be list view separator and used in both places? I'm going to decree the answer is yes. And if we need to split it later, we can. That may be the wrong call. That may be the wrong call. But I think that works. Right, and then this is hover background, which is also the same, and I question if it should be changed as well. Is that the only one in here? There's two. So there's a couple cases. Let's see, just saw this. It may be old. Seems potentially cool. I like Copilot and IntelliSense. Copilot predictions not only. I feel like I saw this. When was this posted? June 8th. So old news, but yeah, old news only if you are at haven't picked it up. I saw stuff about this. This has been getting really good. The one area that has not gotten better that I wish would get more love would be the XAML designer. Trying to use Copilot with XAML is sort of miserable because the keyboard shortcut interaction between taking the Copilot suggestion, taking the IntelliSense suggestion, or closing one or the other to do your own thing it's difficult on the keyboard. Let's put it that way. I'm going to ignore both of these for now. Maybe I should address them. They're both using this. It weirds me out that these were both using the same brushes. Maybe we'll do this here. And I think they should have, this should be list view hover, right? So we're going to go there. And I'm tempted to give this thing a different key, but I think I might just keep it as list view hover for now. These two may need to be separated, but I don't think I haven't. This isn't one of those things where I remember seeing a lot of people requesting that feature. Wow. User mapped section open. There's something you don't see every day. Pretty confident it's the Kraken doing that. Let's just rerun. Yeah, timing's everything. Don't touch the file while somebody else is touching it. Got it. Let's make sure we got those and those in place. Okay. Let's see. Adding new list view brushes. I should double check and confirm that that is in fact the end of the comments on that, which they are. Okay, so let's reply here. This needs to be edited because I changed my mind on how we're going to do that. This needs to be here. This needs to be here. Update comment. And then go here. To handle this case, and the other ones didn't get commented on, so they don't matter because there's nothing to resolve. Commit and push and resolve conversation, and there's yet another one down. Okay, slow going. We're getting there though. We're getting there. There's only a handful more of these guys to address, and I hopefully we'll get time to try and take them out again. But I can feel myself fading. It's 11:30, and I've got early morning meetings tomorrow. So I think with that, I will probably wrap it up for tonight. Again, I'm going to keep hammering on this 5.0 thing because it's the next priority I have on my plate for trying to get in and done. So thank you everyone for coming and hanging out. Benjamin, it was great. Joshua, if you're still watching, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be in a little later. I've got some meetings and stuff to take care of in the morning, but I will be there for lunch because there's food involved, and I am motivated by food. So, everyone else, thank you for coming and hanging out. As always, see everyone next week. Happy coding.